Hello everyone, and welcome to the Cowboy Spur. My name is Sally Parampottil, I'm in 12th grade, and I'm the editor-in-chief for the Sidekick. The Cowboy Spur is a weekly podcast that rotates topics around a set schedule. Discussion will focus on news, sports, entertainment, student life, and opinions, with the occasional offshoot episode where we just mess around and have fun. Please excuse our audio quality, as we are filming over Zoom due to COVID. Every week, we will feature a story from Coppell Student Media. This week, our story of the week is New Zoom Class Video Rules Reigniting Learning by Blanche Harris. Here's the lead. Imagine this. You're a teacher at Coppell High School, logging onto Zoom and getting ready for a full day of work. Your first class starts. A smatter of students have cameras on and are alert, while everyone else has the video setting off and are unresponsive for the duration of class. This scenario has played out daily since virtual school began on August 17th. With the majority of students absent before attendance is even called, the CHS administrative team have decided to make some changes. Make sure to visit Coppell Student Media to read the rest of the story. News never stops, even in the midst of a pandemic, and our guests today might know that better than anyone. Introducing our first guest, Shivi Sharma.
Hi, I'm Shivi. I'm a senior and I'm the news editor for the Sidekick.
We also have a very special guest today, a fellow editor from a school in Louisville ISD. Please welcome Shriya Mukkavilli.
Hi, I'm Shriya. I'm a junior and I'm the Marquee's news and entertainment editor at Marcus High School.
So what sparked you guys' interest in news and journalism?
I think for me, it was back when I used to go to India during the summer, my grandparents used to get the printed edition of the New York Times. So I would read that in the mornings, and then I would see people's names and stuff and be like who wrote these stories? How are they getting them out so quick and everything?
I think for me, it was mostly my parents used to always have CNN or MSNBC on when I was a kid, during the day, it would just be playing in the living room. I don't know, kind of through osmosis or something. It just I was always aware of what was going on, and I feel like it's a pretty relevant. News is always relevant. News is always important to a lot of people. So I don't know. I think I just like being a part of it.
Yeah, I really like being a part of it too. I know that, for me personally, the news section isn't my go-to section. I like writing feature stories about people. And of course, that is still technically news because it's telling a story. But I joined the newspaper, not just for the news, but for a lot of other things. And I think it's really great that there are people who joined for the news, because I personally think it's boring, or it's not as fun to write, not necessarily to consume, because I consume a lot of news, but when it comes to writing, I guess I lean more towards the creative stuff. But hearing you guys is really, really cool. So Shriya, you're at Marcus, Shivi, we're both at Coppell. So I guess Shriya, what does Marcus High School look like right now?
Well, in our school we have there are three options for students. Either they could just do completely virtual classes, they could do completely in person, or we're offering this thing. Our school offered this thing called Virtual Plus, which is if there's certain classes that aren't offered online in the online curriculum, you can come to school for that. And I do Virtual Plus. I come to school just for the newspaper class, and I do all my other classes online.
Oh, that's so cool. I wish we could do that. I know CHS has some hybrid too, but I think that's mostly for just fine arts and athletics.
Yeah, I know that fine arts and athletics have that. I think our advisor said that Sidekick was technically a hybrid class, so we could come in just for that, but I don't think I know anyone who actually does that.
So are y'all virtually doing newspaper?
Yeah, it's pretty different, but I guess we're getting used to it. I don't know.
Yeah, and so kind of going off that, there's a lot of COVID, and there are a lot of really nationally affected issues, there are a lot of nationally affecting issues. So what's the importance of keeping our news local, and how do you guys do it as news editors?
I think particularly as a school newspaper, compared to a national paper like the New York Times or the Washington Post, we're not the first people that they'd go to for like big breaking national stories, especially if in another part of the country, like the California fires that are happening right now, they wouldn't turn to us first. But if there was a student at our school who was personally affected by it, like their friends or family, then I think they'd be interested in hearing like how it's affected them.
Yeah, definitely. Going off of that, I think a big reason why it's important to localize is that I don't know anyone else in our town that is really localizing to the level, and especially like to our high schools the way we are. Like no one else is really telling stories at Capella High School in the format and like multimedia way that we are. And you know, all these like national stories and even local stories, all these things can be localized with our sources and our information. And like we talked about this in Sidekick, in our virtual classes actually, but we're kind of capturing the history of our town. And that's something that our advisor, Mr. Womberg, told me when I was doing our in-depth, our enterprise story in March about the effect of the pandemic on Capel. And he was saying that this is going to be, you know, the main story documenting, you know, the effect of the pandemic and like at the beginning, how our local business is being affected, how our students being affected and all of that. And I think it's really important, and it definitely gives you a lot more appreciation for your community. Like I don't think I would have felt like as much of a part of Capel or like known all the stuff that's going on at the school if I wasn't like news editor and like purposely keeping up with it. Like it's kind of become habit now, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I learned what pickleball was, I think, yesterday because Shivi brought it up. Apparently, we have a pickleball league. It's like a cross between like tennis and ping pong. I don't know much else about it, but I
Me
mean, that's
neither.
something I wouldn't have known. And I mean, for Sidekick, I know that our staff slogan for this year is local eyes, local news. See, it's fun because if you say local eyes really fast, it sounds like localize, like the verb. That's a verb. That's a verb. And so I know that this year in specific, we're going to be emphasizing a lot of things because we have the elections and we have the pandemic and we have just so much going on in this, you know, first year of the new decade that a lot of things just kind of are going to get swept up and captured by a lot of other news organizations. But I think the fact that we're based in, you know, a smaller area and we have connections with these people, and I mean, even because we're a high school and not even just a local paper, you know, we aren't the Coppell Gazette, but we're a high school newspaper. The fact that we know these teachers and we know students and we have more connections, I think it makes what we do so much more powerful and intimate. And I think that's really great. So there is a lot for news to take on. I mean, it happens every year, especially this year, because like I said before, a lot is happening. So do either of you guys experience burnout, or how do you prevent the feeling of, you know, burning out, taking on too much and just poof?
I think it's, I don't know. I don't want to like give advice or anything, and I don't want to act like I have the whole balance thing down, but I think it is kind of about balance. I think it's very easy for me, and I think I've talked to you about this before, Sally, but it's kind of very easy for me to get like lost in like new stuff or Sidekick stuff. And like with our virtual schedule, there's a lot more flexibility. So as long as you get like your other schoolwork done by midnight, you're good. So I kind of have a tendency sometimes to spend like more time than I realize, you know, assigning stories or researching something, or kind of trying to like plan ahead more than I need to sometimes. I think a big part of that is trying to schedule, and like I have multiple documents just for myself to be like, okay, this is the content that's going up next week. This is what I talk to people about, and like kind of trying to have that organization helps a little bit. And kind of knowing too that like we really try to cover as much as we can, but at the same time, it's like there's no point stressing myself out about it or overexerting ourselves, because we do have a capacity because we're student run and we have a staff of only so many people. So I think it's more important to focus on the quality rather than the quantity, and just kind of work with people individually and take the time to do that.
Yeah, I would agree. It can get pretty frustrating and you can get kind of fatigued by all the news, like sometimes it feels like it's going in one ear and out the other, and you have to like sort through and decide like what's important, what can you like, what would students care about, what would like make an impact. But I think a lot of it comes, Shivi said, like a lot of it comes down to just like managing time and a lot of communication too, I think.
Yeah, and I know that so last year I was the executive sports editor, and even though sports is always super busy, last year in specific, it was just I put so much effort into it that as soon as the school year ended, I knew I was going to be chief this year, and like my time as sports editor was done. I just kind of like I shut down. I don't want to say like mentally or physically or anything, but I just kind of like I got to relax for summer vacation. And I did do Sidekick stuff. I was planning here and there, but having like a mental break was just so good. So you guys, please take mental breaks. My sophomore year, I was co-student life editor, and or at least for second semester I was, and I would take like, I'd have like little tiny burnout, like I'd take like a weekend and just like shut down, I'd have to like take it to relax because I was just stressing myself out way too much. And then last year, I just kind of held it together the whole year, and then at the very end, just kind of, collapsed and whatnot. The last lap just kind of give out, but I guess make sure that you take lots of breaks because I don't want either of you to like have a mental breakdown or anything like that. The great thing about being editors and having like people on staff is that you have a support team, I guess. Workload, you can always, delegate, you can ask people to help you out with stories or projects or whatever. And you also kind of have an emotional support team in that we are all going through this absolutely stressful time, and we all kind of understand the fact that we're overworked and we don't have the resources that we would any other year. So the fact that we have teams that we can talk to and lean upon, it just makes everything so much easier. And I think I'm gonna try my hardest not to burn out this year. I'm gonna make it throughout the whole year again, and I'm not gonna just give out. I'm gonna go through, and it's gonna be great. And I know a big reason that that's gonna happen is because I'm surrounded by a bunch of editors who really love what they're doing and who really love each other, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah, kind of going off of that whole support system thing. I don't want to say I felt that this year more than ever, but I think because I've gotten really comfortable with being on the leadership team and like having a bigger role, I just like love the support system of the editor team so much. And like our culture of Sidekick is like, yeah, I'll call it shout out culture, but it's very positive and uplifting for the most part. And everyone's constantly recognizing each other's work in different classes, and you kind of get glimpses of what everyone's doing that way. And it's really nice to kind of do that for other people and see the smiles on their faces, even if it's on a Zoom call, and like motivate other people that way. And then it kind of motivates you too. And we all kind of, lift each other up. And I love the way we're using Slack this year to just like de-stress or rant or goof around, and then also work and get things done.
Yay! All right, that makes me really happy. Okay, so I do want to end off on something super positive. So, what is something you're proud of in regards to the Sidekick, or for you, Shriya, the Marquee?
This is only my second year on staff, but I'd say all the writing that I've seen so far is like, it's so good. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone, whether it's like through a personal column or if they're writing features, everyone puts forth their best effort to tell the best story that they can. And it's fun, like when we get rewarded for it through like ILPC or other awards. So I think that's something we're pretty proud of as a staff on the Marquee.
Yeah, I'd say I'm very proud of our writing too. I think a big thing for me is just how like creative and dedicated everyone is, whether you're a photographer, a designer, or working on the podcast, or really anything. Like people on the Sidekick really work towards certain goals, and we create like amazing content. And I love, getting on our website multiple times a day and being like, oh wow, look at that photo, look at that story. Wow, that's such a good lead. And I don't know, I'm really proud to be like surrounded by all of these amazing people, and I can't wait to see our issues come together.
Yeah, I guess something I was concerned about because I saw it with some staffers last year is that when things went virtual, the motivation to do well in Sidekick kind of lowered a bit. And I was concerned that maybe that would be the case this year. And when you're editor in chief, you don't want that to be your legacy. Oh, the chief stuck with COVID. That's what she had to deal with. That's what her year was known for. You want a staff who's like passionate and dedicated about what they're doing, and that's what we have this year. Like even though most of us are virtual, and there are a lot more limitations to what it is we can do, the passion for Sidekick hasn't died down at all. Like we have people who are taking on so much because that's what they're able to do and that's what they're willing to do. And that's why our website looks good. And we're designing pages right now for our first issue, and it's why everything looks so good. And I'm so proud of the fact that people on Sidekick, and I bet people at Marcus for the Marquee are doing the same thing, but like putting aside the fact that this year may not be the best, and just continuing to do what they love and doing their jobs and putting all of their heart and soul into what it is that they want to do and producing something amazing.
Mm-hmm. And I think another thing for us is what we kind of struggled with, like the returning staffers. Last year, a lot of the staff writers, they were seniors, so they're obviously not here anymore. So, but we have a lot of newbies, like new writers, but I think they have a lot of potential, and I think they're all very eager to learn and grow, and I'm really looking forward to what they produce this year.
Yeah, actually last year we had like 27 seniors graduate from our program, I think, and 10 out of 13 editors graduated. So it was one of those years, I feel like it happens every other year, where there's like a lot of people graduating from the program. So this year, I think we had 27 new members join. And
Wow.
like you said, I'm really excited to kind of get them started. Right now, they're kind of like learning the basics, but they're going to start writing and publishing content soon. And I'm really excited to see that and kind of watch them grow, even though it's virtual.
It's reassuring to know that there are other student journalists who are committed to telling people stories and producing amazing content, no matter what, even in the midst of a pandemic. Thank you all for joining us in this episode of the Cowboy Spur. A special thank you to Shivi and Shriya for joining us this episode. Next week, we'll focus on topics from the opinion section. Hope you all have a great weekend.